Hello and welcome to Abj series. Recently, there's been a surge in attacks and criticism against the RCCG and Pastor Adeboye, the current leader and general overseer of the church. The criticism has not come from just one group, but from a diverse range of Nigerians, especially Christians, who are beginning to question the church and its overseer. The truth is that there's no Nigerian church without criticism, and for a fact, there's no church without criticism. But recently, the level of criticism the RCCG has seen is in an unprecedented level. Despite the positive comments on the church and the overseers' pages, there is an increasing number of negative comments, especially on pages owned by social media content creators critical of the RCCG and Pastor Adeboye. However, it will be interesting to know the possible reasons why this is so and discuss why the sudden attack and criticism took a whole new level recently. For decades, the ministry of the RCCG, or the Redeemed Christian Church of God, has to a great extent dominated the sphere and space of Pentecostal churches in Nigeria. The church itself boasts of millions of Nigerians as members and thousands of parishes scattered all over the globe. The general overseer, Pastor Adeboye, was to a very large extent key to the growth and success of the church. He has been leading the church for more than 40 years. The RCCG has its presence all over the world, with large branches in US, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia. In Nigeria alone, the RCCG has more than 30,000 parishes, making it a prominent voice in the Nigerian Christian community. However, despite the very influential presence of the church in Nigeria, there seems to be an undermining going on whenever the church's name is mentioned. Various controversies have pointed accusing fingers to the church, and one may begin to wonder why this is so. In this video, we would look at various scenarios that fueled the controversies surrounding the church. Before delving into that, let's briefly explore the history and structure of the RCCG. The RCCG was not founded by Pastor Adeboye, but by an indigenous pioneer Pentecostal pastor in Nigeria, whose name was Pa Josiah Akindayomi. Pa Akindayomi was a revered man of God who felt led by God to establish the RCCG in 1952 in Lagos, Nigeria. Reverend Akindayomi was divinely inspired to choose Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye as the next general overseer, as at that time, Pastor Adeboye was a mathematics lecturer at the University of Lagos. Adeboye was initially hired as an interpreter to translate Akindayomi's sermons from Yoruba to English. He was ordained a pastor of the church in 1975. His appointment as the leader, general overseer of the church was formalized by the posthumous reading of Akindayomi's sealed pronouncement. Pastor Adeboye has been very instrumental to the growth of the church right from becoming its leader in 1980, just after Pa Akindayomi's death. Despite facing heavy opposition from other pastors in the wake of his appointment as the general overseer, Pastor Adeboye shrugged off all form of setback and criticism and focused in growing the church, famously quoting that he will want the church's presence felt all over the world. In spite of the growth and success of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, or RCCG in abbreviation, the church has faced various criticism which seem to be heightened this period. We would look at various instances and why it is so. On X Nigeria, formerly known as Twitter, anytime the RCCG trends on the platform, it is for the wrong reason, and hence, whenever it trends, people use the opportunities to talk about their unpleasant encounters in the church. And sometimes this doesn't just end in the church, but extends to people who are affiliated to the church. In the 2015 Nigerian elections, which produced Muhammadu Buhari, As the president, the RCCG was heavily involved in promoting the campaign of Buhari and his party, the All Progressive Congress, or the APC. The reason why the RCCG supported the Buhari/APC campaign was largely because the running mate of Buhari was Pastor Yemi Osinbajo, who was a high-ranking pastor of the church. In this, it was natural that the church would throw their support for the Buhari campaign, which later did pay off, as Buhari and Osinbajo were elected president and vice president, respectively, in 2015. However, the criticism of the church and its overseer, Pastor Adeboye, didn't come then early in the Buhari presidency, but as the presidency began to run over the course of the 2 terms, people began to point fingers at the RCCG for having a hand in bringing in calamity to the Nigerian people. This was so because the Buhari presidency turned out to be worse than the previous administration, and hence people felt that the RCCG had a hand in it, solidifying their claims that the vice president, who was an RCCG pastor, couldn't do much in helping the Nigerian people. During the Buhari/Osinbajo presidency, Nigeria experienced 2 recessions, making the country the world's poverty capital as millions became poorer. In this case, RCCG was criticized for supporting the Buhari campaign that brought in the APC into power. Some even claimed that the General Overseer, Pastor Adeboye, was not vocal to voice the concerns of the Nigerian people during the Buhari/Osinbajo presidency. These people likened how Pastor Adeboye spoke during the previous Jonathan presidency and claimed that then he was much more vocal as to the struggles of the Nigerian people, but was quieter during the Buhari/Osinbajo presidency, saying that he couldn't speak much since his spiritual son was the vice president. For this reason, in that regard, the RCCG and Pastor Adeboye have been criticized heavily by a good number of Nigerians who say it was hypocritical of the church and the overseer not to speak against the ills of the government because they had one of their own in power. Another similar reason why the RCCG has seen criticism increase also has to do with the pastors under their church/ministry. The RCCG is a large church, hence there are thousands of pastors in the church who pastor parishes scattered all over the world. The scripture which says, "The harvest is plentiful but the laborers are few," plays out very well in the structure of the church. Hence, there's always the need to have pastors that would oversee the growth and management of the various parishes. The RCCG has a number of pastors who are affiliated with the APC government. Some of these pastors include Remi Tinubu, the wife of the president of the country, Dayo Israel, the national youth coordinator of the APC, Ola Olukayode, the EFCC chairman, Yemi Osinbajo, the former vice president of the country, Lawrence Bayode, is the director of ICT at INEC, and the host of others. Lawrence Bayode drew criticism online when it was discovered that he lied under oath during the court cases surrounding the 2023 Nigerian presidential election. It was alleged, especially by online Nigerians on X, formerly known as Twitter, that Lawrence Bayode testified falsely before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, or PET, stating that only 31% of results had been uploaded before Mahmoud Yakubu fraudulently, in quotes, declared Tinubu as the winner of the presidency. Many Nigerians share this sentiment and were quick to call out Mr. Lawrence, pointing to the fact that he was a pastor in the RCCG and couldn't get to say the truth in court. Dayo Israel, also an RCCG pastor, has often been criticized for being part of a government that was laden with corruption and nepotism. On X, formerly known as Twitter, Nigerians were quick to pour insults at him, saying that he was a hypocrite who was part of the Nigerian government that lacked transparency and capacity. He was also often criticized for associating with the Nigerian president, who has been accused in the past of being involved with drug trafficking. There are tens of other examples which we may not have the luxury of dealing with all in this video. Pastor Adeboye of the RCCG himself has not been immune to criticism. In October 2023, just as the Israeli-Gaza war was gearing up, he made a post on X where he stated that RCCG was praying for Israel and hoping the war would come to an end quickly. The post, which was in a video format in X, generated a lot of controversy online. The major reason why this was so was that people were saying, why was Pastor Adeboye lending out his voice of support to Israel while there was massacre, kidnapping, and killings going on in Nigeria? He was basically criticized for not speaking up more for Nigerians and was much more concerned with the conflict in Israel. Another post by the revered pastor that couldn't resist being criticized was when an old video of him surfaced online saying that, quote, "Your colleagues will come to you for food," end quote. The video was in conjunction with a mass prayer held in his church grounds and televised online. The prayer was done to imply that his congregants would be better off than their counterparts. However, this prayer did not go down well with people, especially Nigerians, who took out time to call him on X for a prayer they deemed not to be Christian enough, and also saying that Jesus would have never made such a prayer. The RCCG is not new to controversy, just like many churches in Nigeria. But since the coming of the APC government and the alleged deep involvement of the RCCG with the APC government, the criticism of the RCCG has indeed grown to a height previously not attained by the church. Truth be told, the RCCG has to a very large extent impacted millions of lives positively across the globe, especially in Nigeria, and their impact has not gone unnoticed. Pastor Adeboye himself and his wife, Folu Adeboye, have championed the various causes of lifting people from poverty and positively impacting the society by building schools, hospitals, employing thousands of people, amidst many more good things that they have done. The increased attacks on the RCCG and Pastor Adeboye may be a short setback for the church and ministry, but it does not imply that they are closing or relaxing in doing the Lord's work. They are still fully involved in reaching out to many through the gospel of Jesus Christ. While there may be bad eggs in the church, the legacy of the church and its general overseer will not be forgotten in a hurry. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you later.